Well, hello, and thank you very much for clicking on this video today. So this is an infuriating topic, but it's important because it reflects the rights that we have or don't have in this country. So you may have heard of Palestinian Action, and you may have heard of the Palestinian activists known as the Filton Four that have been sentenced as terrorists, despite the fact that they were not actually convicted as terrorists. The judge draconiously and in a massive abuse of power just imposed it, despite the fact that the jury did not convict them of that at all. But let's go through it. So, my information on this I'm taking from the Canary online. So let's just kind of go over the kind of facts of this. So, this conviction follows four activists who took direct action to damage computers and drones and spray red paint across walls and floors on an Elbit Systems factory in Filton, near Bristol. This is one of now Elbit Systems is an Israeli arms firm. Yeah. So on the 5th of May, the jury convicted them without their knowledge that the presiding judge could and would impose a terror link during the sentencing. And this is due to a long list of reporting restrictions on the UK press, which the judge used to block coverage that he barred defendants from speaking about their motivations for joining Palestinian Action. So let's go into this. So the gagging orders that the Judge Johnson issued also prevented the defendants from providing information to the jury on the Israeli genocide in Gaza and Elbit Systems' role in it all. So let's just kind of recap. So not only did he impose a sentence which he did not tell the jury he could or would do, and now why would he do that? Why would a judge not mention this at all? Well, in the past, when protesters and people that have taken direct action have been tried before, they've often been found not guilty by juries. Not all the time, but they often have been, because juries tend to have a little bit of common sense, and many of them are like, nah, we're not down for this. We're not down for sentencing people, giving people jail terms for basically exercising their right to demonstrate, exercising their right to free speech, and exercising direct action. And the very real reality of this is that the judge undeniably decided, I'm not going to tell the jury this, I'm not going to tell them that I could, and in fact will, give them terrorist sentences, because there is a risk that the jury might go, well, I don't agree that these people are terrorists, so I'm going to find them not guilty. Anyway, and that doesn't even go into the fact that the judge also restricted the information that the defendants could produce. Like, they weren't allowed to produce evidence of, well, this is why we're doing this. This is why we took direct action. We took direct action because this company is making parts, military parts and weaponry that is involved and used for an active genocide. And this is not the first time that direct action has been used as protests. May I remind you, the suffragettes burnt down buildings. They set buildings on fire as part of their protests. And it's also been used before. Like, this is not the first time that people have used direct action as a way to protest or as a way to try and disrupt something that is immoral or along those lines. So I'll just continue with this. So, Defend Our Juries actually filed a complaint against the judge with a Judicial Conduct Investigating Office, and over 3,000 people, including lawyers, law professors, retired police officers, and magistrates, have also signed the complaint. It alleges that the decisions taken by the judge, and I quote, amount to a pattern of exceptional, biased, and discriminatory conduct. Judge Johnson himself was asked to recuse himself from the case, but he completely refused to do so. And Defend Our Juries also cites Johnson's decision to treat the defendant's desire to prevent Israel's mass killings of Palestinian civilians as an aggravating rather than mitigating factor. Additionally, Defend Our Jury's complaint also accuses Johnson of acting vindictively in remanding several of the activists in custody after the retrial, which is, again, this was a retrial. Three or four of them have served 18 months on remand, with one of them having been inside for 21 months. And the Campaign Against Arms Trade spokesperson had this to say. So they said, for generations at Greenham Common, Alderman Fairford and others, the peace movement has been taking direct action against military logistics and supply chains involving breaching security and causing damage. Keir Starmer himself was part of a legal team defending the Fairford Five, who carried out direct action against an area Fairford during the Iraq War. Ironically enough, the person that has defended them is now involved in a government that is actually prosecuting people for doing the exact same thing that he himself defended once upon a time. What the fuck does that tell you? The Filton 4 case bears close parallels to the Raytheon 9, where the defendants were acquitted of criminal damage at the Raytheon factory in Derry in 2006. In this case, the activists attempted to stop weaponry being sold to Israel for use against Lebanon. The motivations for allegedly damaging the office equipment were treated as a mitigating factor rather than aggregating factor, as they should be. The Filton raids, it was abundantly clear that neither Israel nor the UK government were the target, as they were and remain far beyond reasonable influence. Instead, the Palestinian activists sought to disrupt the means of production. Just as one would deny a carving knife to a murderer, these four activists sought to prevent their nation from supplying murder weapons to a genocidal Israeli government. In doing so, the Filton Four upheld an ethical duty to prevent harm, and only did so when it was clear that ordinary options had been exhausted. Which is a fair point. I mean, Western governments, the UK governments, there's a lot of condemnation, anger, and do they listen? Do they take that into account? No, they just shrug it off because they're taking Israeli money. And the statement then goes on to the sentencing of the Filton Four as terrorists when they were not convicted as such, and when the evidence that might have been supported... and when the evidence that might have supported that conclusion was not even allowed to be heard in court, would not only be unprecedented but grotesque and dystopian. It will always be the case that those taking non-violent direct action to prevent complicity in a genocide are acting in service of humanity. And Amnesty International also commented on this, saying it was completely disproportionate to punish protesters for criminal damage as if they were terrorists, a sentence which stays with you for life. The defendants in today's case were sentenced as terrorists because the prosecutors wanted to make an example of them. Today's decision shows how direct action protesters could be treated in the future. The use of terrorism laws against direct action protesters must end. Together we'll continue calling out abuse of power and fighting for our right to protest. So, taking this all into account, kind of summarising, what can we learn here? Well, in our legal system and our political system, it's okay to commit genocide. It is fine to deliberately massacre civilians, throw people off land. But if you want to take direct action and say, you know what, I want to try and prevent the weapons and the equipment from going to that government to be used, that apparently is a crime. And they'll give people jail sentences, because the actual four people were given jail sentences. I don't have the actual jail sentences in front of me, but I read them. One of them got 8 years. They're very hefty. If you went out and punched someone in the face, caused actual physical harm, you probably wouldn't get a sentence as harsh as these people have been given. And all this is because they want to try and prevent a genocide. How dare they, eh? How dare they... How dare they think that genocide is wrong. No, we should support genocide. That's the UK's official policy on the position of genocide. It's okay, providing Israel does it. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to this video today. I'll catch you later.